Hi, I'm Craig Rowland from Sandfly Security, and today we're going to be talking about the importance of doing active security monitoring on Linux. Now, I have been involved with the security space for ages and been doing Linux for an untold number of years. And what I see an interesting thing about Linux is that people will spend a ton of money and time. They will load 50 antivirus products on their Windows boxes. But on their Linux systems, they will do almost nothing. They'll do some log monitoring maybe, and maybe a couple other things to check some file integrity, but they don't go out and actively look for attackers on these boxes. And it's very bizarre to me because if you think about it, I mean, yeah, well, Windows boxes are typically your desktop environment and they're important, but your Linux systems in a lot of organizations are usually the crown jewels. Your database clusters where your customer data is. About 90% of the cloud workload today is handled on Linux. So it's a really, really big deal. And the fact that people will spend so much time and money to watch Windows but do almost nothing to actively monitor Linux has always puzzled me. I think part of it is people assume that Linux is secure. And it is out of the box, right? Mostly, right? But the thing is, once you start loading on applications, third-party applications, custom applications, making configuration changes, then it's going to have problems just like any other system on the planet. And maybe you could say it has fewer problems than Windows, but at the end of the day, it's all kind of going to come out in the wash because the amount of critical data Linux holds makes it far more valuable if people get onto it. Now, I've talked to people who have hundreds or even thousands of Linux instances with no significant monitoring. Maybe some log monitoring at best, but no active hunting for intruders, nothing to keep an eye on things. With people who have experience on staff, they might not even have the security personnel to do it. And I'll tell you what, this is a very big problem. I'll give you an example. Many years ago, one of my first pen tests I was brought into, we broke into a system that had an uptime of something like 4 years. It was not being monitored at all. It hadn't been rebooted. It hadn't been patched. It was just sitting there. This is very common inside of organizations that people spin up systems. It's very easy to spin up a new system. It's very easy for you to do some work on it temporarily, and then it enters production, or even worse, it just sits on the network and you forget about it, or maybe you leave the organization and someone else comes along and nobody wants to touch it now because they don't know really what it's there, why it's there, what it's doing, and on and on. And you get this situation, it happens quite a bit. I know it's surprising to some people, but this happens. It's very common. I see it over and over again. Now, that kind of thing, these orphan systems or these systems that nobody wants to touch, these are a gold mine for an attacker because they're not being watched. That gives an attacker a lot of freedom if they get onto that system to do a lot of lateral movement, bring their tools over and start doing a lot of other things unmolested. And that's the last thing you want. So to kind of wrap this up, I think it's really important that you are watching Linux, and not just watching it with logs, but you need to actively be looking for intruders on the system, okay? And of course, this is what Sandfly does, so I'm biased, but this is the reason why I wrote the product, that there's so much critical infrastructure relying on Linux. It's very important to get in there and have some type of presence on there where you're looking at these boxes from a security investigator and security forensics point of view, actively hunting for hackers. So with the Linux community, you cannot pretend it's gonna be okay because you run Linux. That is just not the case at all. You need to be very active in how you're maintaining and monitoring these systems. And if you're not doing that, my experience is you're setting yourself up for a world of pain and you should probably just stop. So I'm Craig Rowland. That's my spiel on why you should be monitoring Linux. I hope if you're facing these trouble in your organization, you kind of give it some consideration. And be sure to subscribe to my channel and also Twitter feed, Craig H. Rowland. And we're going to be going over more Linux forensics, security, and intrusion detection topics there, and I think you'll enjoy it. Thanks again for watching. Bye.